the Radio Forest Podcast.
Hi, it's Adrian from Hell's Bells.
Adrian, how's it going today?
It's good. How are you?
Doing good. You guys are coming through Hell's Bells Friday, June 25th. You come through Idaho quite a bit, it seems like, almost every year.
Boise is an incredible rock town.
How many shows do you guys do a year? It seems like you're touring nonstop, of course, pre-COVID.
We do 60 shows a year. If it's really bumping, like 70. Yeah, we only really play on the weekends, so that kind of... we only get 52 of those a year. So that would be 108.
It's Adrian from Hell's Bells, lead guitarist. All-female AC/DC tribute group Hell's Bells will be live Friday, June 25th, Expo Idaho in Boise, which technically is Garden City, but we just call it Boise. We've worked with a local band a couple of times called Powerhouse. They've definitely got it. Yeah, they definitely have an AC/DC sound, and I think you guys might know each other.
We do. I love them. They opened for us at the Knitting Factory. They're awesome.
When did you hear that Angus was aware of your band, and what was your reaction?
Oh, well, I knew about that when they met the band in the beginning, like back in, I think they met the band in 2000. They didn't let me in the band at first, so I didn't get to meet the first round. So I met them on the second round in 2009. So the band has been talking to AC/DC since 2000, and we have a friend that is kind of close to the tour manager, who is surprisingly from Bremerton, Washington, which is some of our players' hometown. Anyway, yeah.
What's a meet and greet like with AC/DC? They don't seem to do a ton of those these days. Sort of the 80s and 90s, they were kind of bigger. You'd see them more often. But I don't even see, like, very many interviews. Even people within the rock world are like, we don't know what they do when they're not on stage.
Brian is the most outgoing, gregarious person, and he actually had that 2009 tour. They had contest winners. So that's where we first stopped and talked to Brian, and then the tour manager took us upstairs to meet Angus and Malcolm. And then Phil and Cliff were not around, so we didn't get to talk to them that time. They're real chill. I bummed a cigarette off them.
No, you smoke it, or did you keep it?
I smoked it.
Oh.
I wanted to hang out with them.
Oh, yeah. Get you another 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the famous songs, but then I thought, they just came out with an album. I really don't want to be offensive, so I asked them about what song on the album inspired them to put out a whole nother album.
What was the answer to that? What tour was this? Is this 90s, early 2000s?
The Black Ice Tour. And Malcolm giggled. And Angus said, I have to look up the song name because I remember it as Light Up the Sky, but that's not the correct name. But he said, we have all these old tapes. And so we just, listen to the tapes and pull stuff from that we think is going to fit together. Oh, Sky's on Fire. That's what he said. Song number 2 on Black Ice.
Yeah, I think they did that for the new album, too. They went back and listened to some tapes that Malcolm had done, and they talked about using his parts. But I think Angus was like, this doesn't really feel right to use the stuff that he didn't release. Oh,
I didn't hear that. Okay, that's cool.
That's now the second time I've heard AC/DC reference like a bank of tapes. He said, Mal's got hundreds of hours of just riffs and song ideas, and we'll get together and sort through those. And so for the newest record, the plan was to put the parts of Malcolm on there. And then I think when it came to writing the songs, it either didn't sit well or the songs weren't the quality that Angus really wanted to put out there. I hadn't really realized how much Malcolm was sort of running the band. I always just assumed everything was Angus and maybe a little bit of Brian. But to hear Angus put it, Malcolm was kind of sort of the quiet Don in the back of AC/DC.
I would definitely think that in the earlier years, but by 2009, the Black Ice, one of our friends that's close to the band mentioned that Angus was writing a lot of the lyrics. So I didn't know that. And then also we have another friend close to the band who used to sell our merch. Her name is Dawn Trout, and she used to date Bon Scott. Anyway, she said that...
Wait, she used to date Bon Scott?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, sorry, go through your story. Maybe we'll jump back to that.
Yeah, she mentioned that Angus did not put up with a lot of partying and funny business. In that comment, it made it sound like that Angus was really making a lot of decisions.
So she dated Bon Scott. Do you have any quick little details or stories that you weren't aware of Bon's persona that you can share with us?
What you see is what you get. I mean, she's got love letters from him or letters from the road, and he's writing like, okay, my mushrooms are about to kick in, so when you see my handwriting, get that. Yeah, and no, he was exactly what you see. She talked about how they were going to have this big party because I think AC/DC was touring with Judas Priest or something, or Meatloaf or something like that. They were going to have a big party because it was the last show of the tour. Bon Scott took too many drugs and he was passing out. And the tour managers were like, you got to get him out of here. He can't be in this. He's got to get out of here. She's like, no, I want to stay here at the party. She had to take him back to the hotel room, and she was like slapping his face because he was passing out, and she was afraid he was overdosing, and she just had to really take care of him that night. And so, he partied. What you see is what you get. I mean, he speaks. Probably why his lyrics are so good is because it's true. It's him. What he says is what he believes.
Do you find on stage that the guitar writing is different with Bon and with Brian Johnson era of AC/DC's? I mean, clearly the band's progressing through time. I mean, AC/DC's sort of always AC/DC. Average fans, like, every song sounds the same. But if you know the catalog like you do, you know that that's not true. And it is different once you get below the layers. But do you notice a significant shift in songwriting with Brian Johnson? I mean, Back in Black is a monster album. Do you think Bon and AC/DC would have had an album like that? Or do you think once, by learning the guitar parts and all the intricacies of the songs, do you think it's a definite change with Brian in the band? Or that's just the way the band was going? I
see it as the way the band was going. But yes, the most intricate guitar work, it gets really intricate starting there. Like, those songs are so interesting as, somebody that plays guitar. When I do the solos, I try to do them as close to the recording as possible because nobody wants to hear anything else. They're so iconic. And yeah, but if you go back and you listen to like Bad Boy Boogie, I have a little bit of room there because it's so bluesy. I have a little bit of room there to not have to do every single little tiny thing, right? That in the solos, you know what I mean? You can kind of ad-lib and stuff and have some fun, and you want to hit some key points, but most people are not going to notice it. Oh, she didn't hit this there. But if any of those Back in Black solos, you got to play them.
Note for note. Yeah.
Note for note. Yeah. And Thunderstruck's really intricate too. But I would say people think Thunderstruck would be the hardest song to play, but I kind of feel like a lot of that Back in Black stuff is harder to play, especially Back in Black, Have a Drink on Me, those things. And I heard that, I don't know if this is true, this was just gossip. They were thinking about getting rid of Bon anyway because of the partying. I think I read that like in a guitar magazine or like Rolling Stone, so it might not be true.
Well, Angus doesn't drink. I don't know if he ever did. And off the top of my head, I don't know if Malcolm did or didn't. I think I've seen pictures of Malcolm with beers. But Angus doesn't drink at all, and I don't think he really ever has. So that would probably be tough. If you're running the band, you're like, dude, we have a chance to be a great band. You can't be hammered all the time or starting to trip on mushrooms halfway through a show. That would be a difficult dynamic in a band for sure. I could see that being true.
Yeah.
What was your opinion with the AC/DC Axl Rose friendship and performances as an AC/DC fan?
I was bummed that they didn't pick Amber.
Oh, yeah.
She could have done that. But of course, they picked Axl to sell tickets. And I didn't like it, the sound of it, at first. And then when I saw the show at the beginning, they were yelling, Axl. And I got super pissed because I'm like, it's not his fucking band. It's Angus's band. And then I watched a whole lot of Rosie. I was like, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think they busted out, I think you mentioned Bad Boy Boogie. I think they busted out some old stuff like that Angus was like, we haven't done that since Bon. Some songs that Axl was a big fan of, which I thought that was cool because with Brian, they're like, we never even attempted those songs.
Oh.
Did you guys ever co-tour or at least run into, I'm sure the answer is yes, with the Iron Maidens? And I guess my question is, have you had any interaction with Nita Strauss
We've played with them twice. The first time when they first started in Tacoma, and they were a completely different band except for the drummer was the same. And then we played with them in this weird thing that happened in Ogden, Utah. And it was a big facility, but they just kind of like ran by us and didn't really want to make eye contact. I don't know. They didn't seem that interested in even like making eye contact. So I don't know what that was about, but I love the band. I would go see them in Portland and stuff. If I was in town, I would go see them.
So Nita went on to join Alice Cooper as part of his touring band. I think she's on a couple of the last recent albums. Other than AC/DC, who would be some of the dream bands you're like, absolutely yes, I don't even have to think about it. I'm on my way. I'll be there in 2 hours.
I would love to play with Samantha Fish if she was to add another guitarist. She's a great guitarist. Of course, Alanis Morissette. That would be awesome. I've never really thought about it because I love the bands that I love, and I want to hear the guitar players in that band. So I don't know. I guess if the Donnas were ever to do a reunion and I could stand in for, I forget her name. I would do that for sure in a heartbeat. But it's kind of like if those kind of bands like the Donnas, you got to have those members in it, or it's kind of like, let me look at my CD collection. I would love to play guitar with Jimmy Page. I guess Gary Clark Jr. would be pretty amazing to pick up that gig. Yeah.
So when and why did you go from Seattle to Texas? What got you down to the Lone Star State?
The music scene here. And I do original music and I put out like 13 albums or something over the course of being in Hell's Bells. Being in Hell's Bells has made it possible for me to put out and write and do original music. So if I had to work like a real job where you work 8 hours a day and it kills your soul, I don't see how I could have put out that much music. So I moved here because the music scene here is a little bit easier to navigate. It's easier to get people to go out. It's kind of more of a social aspect to this city that is unlike the Pacific Northwest, actually unlike any other city I've ever been to. Even Dallas and Houston, it doesn't compare. There's something here that like people want to be out. You can talk to other people and it's not like, why are you talking to me kind of attitude. And yeah, I just do my original music out here and have a good time with myself and my bandmates.
How did you make money then during lockdown when you're in two touring bands? I imagine a big chunk of that is merchandise and touring, and merchandise sells as you tour. Was it difficult? I
was like, thank God I worked so hard on putting out and writing original music. Because I started live streaming. It's not like I had high numbers of people watching or anything, but people tipped, and they still tip, and I'm still doing the live streaming. And I really have developed like an entirely new show where like I've got samples, I do looping, and I got to, really like get good at performing and singing. And so I just was like, thank God I worked so hard to put out this music, because this is like, I'm making money playing my music. Oh my God, there's a dream come true.
You've got loops and you've got some pedals, drum sounds. Is that something you would learn? Because it looks quite complicated, but you navigate through it very easily. Or have you always been doing stuff like that?
I started in 2016 when I started a band with the drummer in Zepparello. We did a band called Boshebo. And she showed me how to work all this equipment. So I went to Spain for my original music, and my band couldn't go, and I couldn't afford to take them. And it was like a cultural exchange thing. So I had to like raise money to get a ticket. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to perform by myself. I'm going to set up this Ableton. And I learned how to do it. And then when this pandemic hit, it developed further into adding like all this equipment. And it's still developing. Like there's still equipment that I would like to buy so I can kind of get it into a more DJ type situation. But how I make my shows entertaining is I'll play like some riffs from like songs that inspired like Zeppelin or AC/DC. I'll play like some of those riffs and then bust into my song. And so I really try to make it interesting for people so they're not having to take in so much new, music, because it's not easy to constantly hear something you don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I really try to make it entertaining.
So you're doing these every week, right? What days are you doing these, and how do people find these live streams that we're talking about?
I do Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central, so that's 8 p.m. your time. And you can see it on my Facebook musician page, Twitch, or YouTube.
I know that you had said that you had some negative reactions to the COVID vaccine. Can I ask you what happened, what you felt, and how you're doing?
Yeah, I got the COVID vaccine and didn't know that I already had COVID because I tested negative, but I must have caught COVID the day before. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was brutal. The first 2 days was vaccine reaction, but I had a fever the entire time because on the third day is when I lost my taste and smell. And that's when the COVID kicked in. Fever the whole time until the COVID ran its course, which was about 10 days. I felt like this is never going to end. I just was like, I don't see how I'm never going to, how this fever is going to stop. It was like a 2-week fever. It sucked.
Did
no joke.
Affect your lungs a little bit? Weren't you a little concerned about performing again, or you had to push some stuff back?
I definitely didn't do my live stream, and I couldn't go out of the house. I couldn't sing. And I did go get a CT scan, and it did change my lungs a little bit. And that's what that virus does. It makes your lungs spongy. And some people, won't recover for up to 6 months. But they were like, you'll probably be fine in 2 weeks. And so when I was able to leave my house, I swim laps for my exercise, and I could tell that things were much different. So, but I'm fine now.
It's Adrian Conner. She's got her own band. She also is a guitarist in Hell's Bells. They come through Idaho pretty much every year. Friday, June 25th, Expo Idaho with Sockeye Brewing's 25th anniversary. I'll be there emceeing the evening. So, Adrian, we look forward to seeing you guys, you girls, I should say, live again on stage, and looking forward to finally seeing some live music again.
Yay! I can't wait. We can't wait. We're so excited.